At times, it has seemed to be the summer of peace plans. While no negotiations are underway between Israel and the Palestinians, everyone from the EU to the US seems to have a proposal. But for Israel, it remains about one-on-one discussions, the foreign ministry quick to highlight the need for direct negotiations.
If you want to move into something concrete, you have to be sure that both parties are absolutely clear on what they can gain and what they can lose with the process. Okay, so you need to talk directly to the parties concerned and not try to, express some abstract ideas just out in the open, try to impose something from the outside. That never works.
The Palestinian leadership has recently rejected the idea of direct negotiations, saying the Israeli prime minister is, quote, no partner in peace. Instead, spending much of the summer floating the idea of taking the issue of statehood directly to the United Nations, a move some see as a potential danger, skipping past direct negotiations and running the risk that the UN could change little on the ground. Many in Israel brush off a Palestinian bid to create a state from a UN vote, even rejecting the options of most parties involved, from the Quartet last week to the Arab League this week.
It really doesn't matter. What matters is what the United States says. And I think that the most important move that the United States can make is sort of veto if it comes to the Security Council. Of course, the United States can't do anything about the General Assembly. But the General Assembly decision, there have been decisions before about a Palestinian state, and they've secured majorities, and nothing happened on the ground.
And it's that next day concern that without face-to-face negotiations, nothing will actually change on either side. Even if the various international plans actually culminate into direct party negotiations, both sides are going to face stark realities. Take, for one example, the security fence. Hard to imagine unless you're actually here, but it's enormous and doesn't always follow the 1967 borders. Cal Perry, Al Jazeera, occupied East Jerusalem.
Live now to Ramallah, Hanan Ashrawi from the Palestinian Legislative Council joins us. This move to apply for full member status at the United Nations, is it the wisest of moves, bound as it is to irritate Israel and going against, as it does, the wishes of the United States and others?
Heaven forbid that we should irritate our occupier. Israel has been acting unilaterally and has been stealing our land, demolishing our homes, building apartheid walls, stealing our resources, building settlements, annexing Jerusalem, doing everything illegal under the sun, unilaterally, and getting away with it. And now that we have decided we really need to get this issue back to the international community in a multilateral way, to put the international community and the world body before its own responsibilities. And we're going to the source of international law, the global legislator par excellence. We are being told you can't act unilaterally, or this irritates your occupier, or the US won't be happy with you. It's absolutely ridiculous. All these arguments are just baseless, and they're illogical.
So help me understand how the move to full recognition at the United Nations is going to help Palestinians on the ground in Gaza, in the West Bank.
Yeah, they will help us a great deal. First of all, there should be a clear international consensus, firmly embedded in international law, that the 1967 boundaries are the boundaries of the Palestinian state, with East Jerusalem as our capital. This would certainly mean that these are not disputed territories, therefore up for grabs, therefore up for Israeli annexation and greed. This is one thing Israel does not want to do. It does not want to recognize or withdraw to the 1967 boundaries or relinquish its illegal annexation of East Jerusalem. So that is step number one. Step number two, it would also make any solution firmly based in international law, something that Israel doesn't understand, has not abided by, and has gained immunity from by American collusion, by acting with full impunity accountability by wreaking havoc in our lives, by destroying the very foundations of peace, and then escaping any kind of censure or accountability in accordance with the US. So this would start a process also of accountability and hopefully leading to genuine curbs.
All right.
It will also give us access to international agencies and organizations.
So let's for a moment assume that it passes through the General Assembly and then is vetoed by the Security Council. I mean, what happens in that scenario? Surely that's losing face, isn't it? And this is all about political points. It's all about political point scoring, really, isn't it? That's the real reason that this is going to be done.
No, it's not. No. It certainly isn't. If the US once again wants to isolate itself with Israel on the wrong side of the law, then it can do it. It's not the Security Council that will veto. It's the US alone that will veto, and has been habitually vetoing every single Palestinian right and protecting every single Israeli violation. So there will be a veto. If there is a veto, now we have many different options. We can also present again and again and again. There are many countries that have presented repeatedly several times in the days of the Cold War, where there was a competition between the Soviet Union and the US as to who will veto more. Of course, the Soviet Union vetoed more, but this time it is time that the world sees how the US is working against international law, against its own interests, its own national security, and against the interests of justice and the global rule of law. But ultimately, we will be able to have access to the international community, to its agencies, including judicial agencies like the International Criminal Court, the International Court of Justice, the Human Rights Commission, and we will go to all these and the high contracting parties of the Fourth Geneva Convention, because this occupation has to stop, it has to be held accountable, and we need international law to be the foundation and the basis of the resolution.
Hanan Ashrawi, good to talk to you. Many thanks indeed for being with us here on Al Jazeera.
You're welcome.